Before we get into today's Cowboys Report, less than 18% of you are part of the Noti gang here at the Cowboys Report, which means you don't actually get a notification sent right to your phone every time a new video is published on the Cowboys Report. Go back to where you first saw that little bell icon, change it from personalized to all. That way you don't miss any video, which is important this time of the year since roster cut day is just a few days away. We begin with injury news on Tyler Guyton. He left practice early today, and as it always is on social media when you don't know what actually happened, there's a bit of a meltdown and a freak out because, boy, you really need your left tackle out there and healthy. Good news is this does appear to be minor. That is what the Cowboys have said. Minor knee soreness. Patrick Walker, no C at Voice of the Star on Twitter, said he was told it's no big deal. Very similar to the apparent Brandon Cooks knee soreness where there wasn't actually like an injury or like a non-contact thing that happened. Just like, it felt sore. So it's, August 21st. So they are very cautious with those types of things. This was the last real practice at training camp, by the way, out in Oxnard. So, not going to see him out there again tomorrow. I wonder if he will play in the preseason finale. I think Big Mike, very cautious with injuries. I'm going to bet he actually doesn't, and they just hold him out because why risk something? If he does play, it means it's very clearly he's fine and good to go. Guyton has played 56 snaps so far in the preseason and has very much established himself clearly as this team's left tackle. Not that there is a viable option that's healthy right now on the roster. In fact, you can spin zone it. You kind of want to give more reps to the other left tackle options too. Of note today, when Guyton went down, Awesome Richards got a pretty decent amount of the reps at left tackle. Now, he's played mostly left guard, some left tackle so far in the preseason. I think he's looked actually pretty solid in the preseason. I think a lot better than his replacement Dakota Shepley looked back when he played in the second preseason game. I have a theory that I was actually going to unveil on tomorrow's live show, but we'll go ahead and do it now in light of the injury. If you had looked at some of the clips that had come out before the injury and yesterday's practice, Josh Ball was at right guard again, and Richards was at left tackle with the twos. And that makes me wonder if their plan has been, week 3 of the preseason, they're going to give Richards those reps at left tackle and create a battle with Josh Ball for the swing tackle spot while Chuma Edoga is out. That's a theory. We'll see if I look smart or stupid in a couple of days, but I did want to make note of it. Back to Guyton. How important do you think the Cowboys' first-round pick is at the left tackle spot? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. How important do you think Tyler Guyton is to the Dallas Cowboys? Go vote, especially if the ad comes here on YouTube. More injury news and notes here. Juanyeh Thomas is battling a groin injury. I still haven't seen full details on that front. Cowboys media seemed to really treat the fire story as super important at the press conference today, which I don't. Sure, whatever, it's fine. It didn't seem like that big of a deal to me. So TBD on his status. This doesn't seem to be severe by stretch of the imagination. I think we would have found out if it was severe by now. Knock on wood. You're actually down to 6 safeties now, with Mukuamu playing mostly nickel. Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson, Juanyeh Thomas, Marquise Bell, Julius Wood, Amani Johnson. I am a big fan of what Juanyeh Thomas has to offer as a football player. I think every time he gets a chance to showcase what he can do, he makes plays. In fact, for the first time in ever, I think that safety room is the best position grouping room on the Dallas Cowboys roster. So I feel pretty good about the status of that safety room overall. Hopefully Thomas doesn't miss any time because I want to find ways to play him and Marquise Bell more and not have to deal with, the problem was solved with injuries. I'd rather have that champagne problem than have to deal with injuries, obviously. Today's show is made possible by Turtle Beach, the #1 brand in gaming headsets. They have launched the new Gen 3 Stealth 600 headset. Picks up so much crystal clear sound, it's kind of cheating, especially if you're playing shooters. It is beneficial to hear everything you possibly can and figure out where your enemies are. Whether you are a casual gamer or someone who hasn't touched grass in weeks, maybe you've been playing a lot of college football 25, Turtle Beach has the right headset for you. They don't just have amazing headsets, by the way. They have every gaming accessory you could ever want, and they're all high quality at prices that don't break the bank. From flight and racing sims to controllers, keyboards, mice, Turtle Beach is the ultimate gaming cheat code. You might have noticed that this is not my normal headset here on the Cowboys Report. It is my personal Turtle Beach one. It is the one I use when I am playing my college football dynasties, online with friends, etc. Or if I just want to lock in and do some work at home, this is the one I use. My wife bought it for me because even she knows Turtle Beach is the best. Get the ultimate immersive gaming experience with Turtle Beach today. For a limited time only, head to turtlebeach.com/chat and use code CHAT for 10% off your order. That's 10% off your order with code CHAT over at turtlebeach.com/chat. We'll spend the rest of today's Cowboys Report discussing Dameon Pierce. I was talking with everyone's favorite frenemy, Jeremy Chuggs, who runs our Texans channel. He and I had previously touched base on Dameon Pierce. I'm like, is there any chance they move him at the beginning of the preseason? He's like, no, it's not going to happen. I don't buy that. Well, then he messaged me after the second preseason game and said, hey, well, maybe this could actually happen now. Frankly, Pierce has struggled in the preseason for the Houston Texans. Cam Akers has stepped up. He's looked pretty solid. There's other options on the roster. They drafted Jawar Jordan. There are still questions about the fit of Dameon Pierce after he was great in 2020 to bad in 2023 to brutal in the preseason, how he fits in this offense. In the preseason for Dameon Pierce, 8 carries, 9 yards. That's 1.1 yard per carry. That's bad, folks. And a long of 3. Now, has the offensive line been very good in Houston? No, of course not. But that doesn't excuse Pierce's performances. And given the obvious issues in the running back room for the Dallas Cowboys, you kind of can't just poo-poo any player. Now, some you can, but you have to have a lot of conversations in your personnel office about what are we going to do at the running back position. Zeke, Dowdle, Freeman, Malik Davis, Deuce Vaughn, Lipke, whoever makes the roster of those 6 guys, 3 to 4 of them, that's maybe 5. I'd be kind of surprised, but that's a bad running back room. So if you think you could recapture the 2022 form for Dameon Pierce, you owe it to yourself to have a conversation. We are not done with said conversation, but would you trade for Dameon Pierce? Y for yes, N for no. Go ahead and sound off for me in the comment section of today's show. There is risk here, by the way, and I get if you want to say no and don't just assume he'll bounce back to form. There is a risk that Dameon Pierce isn't good anymore, that he's just fallen off too far. I mean, you saw those stats from 2022 to 2023. It was rough. It kind of fell off. Maybe you don't want that type of player. Maybe there's somebody else you have in mind. Now, Pierce, I will say, is super cheap. Due about $2 million. I'm rounding there, but call it $2 million over the next 2 seasons combined. And there's no guaranteed money. So if things don't look great, you can cut him easily. And you don't actually owe any dead money the same way you would have had to cut like Trey Lance or something there. So my trade idea for Dameon Pierce is this. I'll give the Texans a conditional 2025 day 3 draft pick. And I'll put conditions on playing time, production, etc. as part of that. It could be as low as nothing if he isn't on the active roster for at least, so many games. It could be as high as a 5th round pick. 4th round pick, you can attach a bunch of playoff condition to it, and if you go to the NFC Championship game and he runs for 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns, okay, sure. I'm fine. Actually fine doing that because you're probably not going to do that anyway. I think that's fair value for Pierce. Remember, running back trades, they don't fetch much. DeAndre Swift got a future 3rd round pick. David Montgomery got very little. There hasn't been a great history of trades at the running back spot fetching big returns. It wasn't David Montgomery. I'm thinking of somebody else, but I digress. Christian McCaffrey's the exception. Dameon Pierce is no Christian McCaffrey right now. We all know that. But I think as the Cowboys sit with where they're currently at in their organization, you have to consider all the available options at the running back spot. That could be Miles Sanders. I don't want to pay him. My guy Israel Abanikanda. A surprise cut. The Niners cutting somebody like Elijah Mitchell. And I would still be surprised if Houston cut Dameon Pierce. But if Cam Akers is RB2 in Houston, which seems to be a possibility all of a sudden, RB3 in most organizations plays special teams. Dameon Pierce is not a special teamer. Now, could also have some similar issues in Dallas with who your RB3 is in this scenario. But again, if you can get Pierce and you think you can get him back to form, owe it to yourself to have that conversation. This position group, running back, will be one worth monitoring as we get closer to roster cutdown time. So make sure you guys are locked in to the Cowboys Report.